I'm Kelsey Zeiser. I'm a senior editor at Light Reading, and you're listening to the Light Reading Extra podcast. And we're here at Cisco Live in San Diego, and I'm joined by...
Yeah, my name is Matt Starling. Hi everyone, I'm the Senior Director of Product Marketing here at Ekahau.
Good to see you again, Matt.
It's so good to see you. I mean, I know we did a webinar recently together and we did it virtually, and then I've had the pleasure of seeing you twice now in the last couple of weeks. So yeah, it's really great to see you in person.
Yeah, that was pretty funny running into you in Paris for the Extreme Networks event. You had a really interesting presentation on Wi-Fi 7. I really enjoyed the pictures of where not to put your Wi-Fi AP. I'm sure you see that all the time of people putting them in closets or who knows where.
Yeah, sometimes we find some interesting installations of access points, and then people kind of question why it's not working so well. So yeah, we definitely come across that a lot.
Yeah. So this week, there's been some discussion around Wi-Fi 7, and I know that Ekahau is doing some work with Cisco on that. But before we get into it, can you give an overview for those who might not be familiar about what some of the main benefits of Wi-Fi 6 and 6E versus Wi-Fi 7? What are some of the big improvements with Wi-Fi 7?
You asked the best questions. I love talking about Wi-Fi, and for me, Wi-Fi 6, or more specifically Wi-Fi 6E, has been one of the best new additions we've got to Wi-Fi in such a long time, because going back for the last however many years, we've only had access to two frequency bands that we could use for Wi-Fi communications, 2.4 and 5 gigahertz. The 2.4 gigahertz frequency band is quite a short amount of spectrum that we have access to use, and it's really congested, and there's lots of other devices that operate there. So most of the corporate connectivity was being used on the 5 gigahertz frequency band. However, with so many Wi-Fi devices out there now, even that was getting really congested. So with Wi-Fi 6E, that actually gives us access to the 6 gigahertz frequency band, which over here in the US, you get a lot of additional spectrum to use, 1.2 gigahertz, whereas myself over in UK and Europe, we only get an additional 500 megahertz, but still that's fantastic to get think of it as another lane to drive down on the freeway, so we can start moving our devices over into that one, and that actually benefits our legacy devices, because the more newer Wi-Fi 6E and Wi-Fi 7 devices that come along that can actually utilize that 6 gigahertz frequency band, it improves the performance of the older devices in the legacy bands, because more and more move into those ones, freeing up a bit of space for them there.
Okay. And then Wi-Fi 7, I believe, is it MLO, and I'm blanking on what it stands for, but I know that that's an important part.
Yeah. So Wi-Fi 7 brings some really cool new features that we've never had before, and you mentioned one is MLO, which stands for multi-link operation, which actually means if you have a Wi-Fi 7 access point with a Wi-Fi 7 client device, it can either simultaneously transmit across multiple frequency bands at the same time, whereas before we would have a device, let's say Wi-Fi 6 or going back other generations, if you connect on 5 gigahertz to an access point, you're going to constantly be communicating on that one unless you roam to a different AP, basically. Whereas what multi-link operation can do now is it can either steer you, let's say you initially connect on 5 gigahertz and then the access point decides, oh, you know what, 6 gigahertz is less congested, so I'm going to move you over to the 6 gigahertz. Or you can do aggregation, so if you want to get higher data rates and throughput, we can actually aggregate transmissions across multiple frequency bands. So that's something new, a new technology, which is really exciting that we've not had access to before. So that's quite a cool new one out of Wi-Fi 7, I would say. But talking about some of the new features around Wi-Fi 7, there's a few things there. We do get access to faster speeds, so we get 4K QAM, so we can actually transmit our data a little bit faster. But the thing that probably excites me the most about the new features with Wi-Fi 7 is something called spectrum puncturing, which let's say we've got a older device communicating on a previous generation of Wi-Fi, let's say using a wide channel. Wi-Fi is quite sensitive, so if it detected any kind of interference at any point on that channel, even if it was just a tiny little chunk, the access points and the client device, they would back off and they would stop transmitting. But with Wi-Fi 7 and spectrum puncturing, if you're using wider channels and you detect a tiny bit of interference in like 5 megahertz that channel, what it'll actually do is it'll just avoid that part of the channel and continue the communication. So it's going to allow for less interruptions and more consistent connectivity. So as we get more and more down the line with these new features, anything that brings us more efficiency and stabilization with connectivity is the things that's exciting me quite a lot.
Yeah, I think it sounds like the speeds potential or possibilities with Wi-Fi 7 are so much greater than even Wi-Fi 6E. And as you mentioned, that kind of widening those channel or those highways is really helpful. I was reading Carrie Baker with Ookla, which is a sister company for Ekahau, wrote about Wi-Fi 7 adoption. It sounds like it's still, I think it was 2% for service providers, and I believe we'll link to it in the show notes, but about 70% of residents get their Wi-Fi routers from ISPs. So that it seems like an important channel on the residential side. What are your thoughts on how is Wi-Fi 7 adoption going? What are some of the challenges to adoption? I mean, it's still early days, right?
Yeah, like you said, it's early days, so it's still kind of in its infancy. So people are adopting the technology and starting to deploy it. More and more places you go, you might start to see some Wi-Fi 7. But I believe over the next few months, next few years, we're going to see a big driver of the adoption of Wi-Fi 7, because for me, even though we get some great new features in Wi-Fi 7, still the biggest driver and the best benefit is the more people that adopt Wi-Fi 7 devices and technology is that they'll get access to that 6 gigahertz spectrum. So the more devices that are moving into that 6 gigahertz spectrum, it makes it better for the legacy devices. So I'm sure the adoption is going to grow and it's going to pick up, and people are going to really feel the benefits of the Wi-Fi 7 features, but ultimately the 6 gigahertz frequency band as well.
Mm-hmm. And so opening up, I guess, more room, I don't know the best way to phrase it, for, I think it's a 2.4 gigahertz and some of those legacy devices. Does that just help organizations in transitioning from those devices? What are some of the benefits of still supporting some of those legacy devices and so many different bands?
Yeah, sure. So if you think about maybe healthcare is probably a good example to use here. They might have lots of medical equipment that they just can't go and update that easily, and they are probably using or leveraging the 2.4 gigahertz frequency band. And like we said earlier, it's pretty congested. So the more devices that are Wi-Fi 7 capable that can use 6 gigahertz and they transition and move into that frequency band, your older, more legacy IoT devices will then have less devices to be fighting with on those frequency bands. And not even just in the healthcare space, lots of manufacturing places with machinery, some of them client devices, they still use older technology that may still support 2.4 gigahertz. So I would say for corporate connectivity, for our mobile devices and our laptops and stuff like that, we all have 5 gigahertz at least, and most of us are now probably got 6 gigahertz because it's been around for quite a while. So not really for corporate connectivity, but for those older IoT devices, they're still going to be around, still need to be used. So again, getting that benefit of moving into the new highway frequency lane that we can use is going to benefit the older devices as well.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And healthcare applications certainly want them to be able to still use those devices, exactly, especially when you're at the hospital. And I know that you also have some new tools that are coming out. At the last event we were at, Extreme Networks, you talked about client analysis. What's the latest with that? And tell us a little bit for people who maybe aren't familiar what client analysis is.
Sure. So that one's quite close to my heart, actually. I'm very excited for this feature to come out because I know how much it's going to help our users with troubleshooting. So someone said recently, a great quote that I keep stealing is that Wi-Fi networks would work fantastically without Wi-Fi client devices. But we do have client devices out there. And one of the things that I found in the past is even if you've designed and deployed and configured a network in the way that you think is in line with industry best practices, you still might have some client devices come along and they either can't connect, or when they do connect, they don't stay connected, or they're having intermittent issues, and you're really scratching your head wondering why are these devices not working. And sometimes it's really difficult to understand what the client device is actually capable of doing. I know in the past I've looked up data sheets for a device and it's been fantastic. You see it supports this, it does that, it does this, it does that, and you're like, okay, great. And then you look at a data sheet for another device and it's like, yeah, this does Wi-Fi, and you're like, oh, brilliant. What kind of Wi-Fi does it do? So the thing about the client analysis, what's really unique is that actually when you connect it to our analysis application and you have your Sidekick connected to it, what you can do is bring any kind of problematic device you have in your network, whether it be a handheld scanner, an iPhone, an Android phone, or Windows, your CEO's laptop, you can bring it close to our measurement device, the Sidekick 2. We'll start to automatically detect the devices that are nearby. You can select that client device, and then what our measurement device will do is like focus in on the channels that that device is using, and we start to profile that device. We start to understand what that device is actually capable of doing, and as the application and the feature matures, the plan is that we will basically understand what the client device can do and look at what the network that it's trying to associate to is configured to operate at. So I'll give you an example. Like, let's say you configured your network to use some of the fast roaming amendments like 11R, K, and V. However, when we're profiling your device, we see that your device only supports 11R and K. It doesn't support V. So maybe because you've got V turned on your network and the device doesn't support it, that's the reason why you're having some client compatibility issues. And it's made what was really advanced troubleshooting for client devices to be able to go and do now easy and accessible for anyone to be able to go and do it, so they can troubleshoot their client devices with ease. So I'm very excited for people to see it. We've had some demos of it on the booth over the last few days. We've just been trying it out here, and people have been blown away when they've seen it. Like, wait, Matt, when's this coming out? I can't wait to get access. It's going to help me so much for that soon. I promise it's coming very soon. So yeah, it's great to see the feedback, and people are very excited for it.
Yeah, definitely sounds really helpful and make things a lot simpler. And you mentioned Sidekick. Remind us of what Sidekick is.
Sure. If you're not familiar with Ekahau and what our measurement tool is, we have a device that's called the Sidekick, and we're actually on our second generation of the Sidekick, so we call it the Sidekick 2. And basically what it does, it scans everything in Wi-Fi. So we have 4 Wi-Fi radios in there that are capable of doing either 2.45 or 6 gigahertz. It has a integrated spectrum analyzer, so it sweeps everything in the Wi-Fi frequency bands. So we don't just understand how your access points are working, your neighbor's access points are working. We actually find anything that operates in the Wi-Fi frequency bands. So if you've got a non-Wi-Fi wireless interferer like a microwave oven or Bluetooth or wireless cameras, we can detect that for you and show you where they are, show you the interference they're causing your network. You can go and track them down, remove them, and get rid of them, basically. So you use our measurement device to survey and validate your network, or you can use it for on-the-spot troubleshooting as well. Or if you just want to look super cool, you just walk around with it all the time. That's what I tend to do anyway.
Like, hey guys, check this out.
I don't go anywhere without it, to be honest.
Sounds good. So I was speaking with Matt McPherson with Cisco yesterday, and he was talking about the importance of being able to help customers identify where their access points are, because sometimes they're not aware of that. Does Sidekick and client analysis help with that situation of, oh no, we put the access point in the closet and we forgot about it? Or
So yes, the people do use our Sidekick with our software to go and track down where their access points are. We do come across users that have inherited a network and maybe they didn't get the data or the information of where the access points were installed, where they were placed. So when you walk around with our Sidekick, and you can put it on your tablet or your mobile device or even on a laptop, wherever your preference is, as you walk around, we're collecting data for you. Because we're recording all of the signals, once you finish walking around, we'll actually place all of your access points on a map for you in their locations, and you can see the signal strength coming from them. So you can go and identify if someone's put it in a closet, if they put it above a ceiling, if you just put it on the wall or anything like that, you can go find it. But also it will show you where your interfering access points are. So even access points that don't...
have a little announcement going on here. Just so people like know,
Yeah,
we had him announce
it's
that.
just thinking I frozen in real time. I was mid-sentence and then just froze. There was a bit of an announcement.
Voice of God came in to remind people that we are actually at a conference.
Yeah, no, it is really cool to be able to do this in person. So what I was saying was that even after you walk around, we don't just find the access points that belong to your network, we find access points that are just even in your environment. So maybe they shouldn't be broadcasting. Like typically we find devices like TVs that have their Wi-Fi radios enabled that shouldn't do, printers, rogue devices, people have got their hotspots on. So we can show you exactly where they are, the impact it's having to your network, so you can go and either reconfigure them, remove them, or ask people to turn off their hotspots. So it's really helpful for understanding where your access points are and tracking down things, just like what you and Matt were talking about.
Yeah, definitely sounds helpful to, like you mentioned, maybe someone inheriting this system and having to figure out how to best utilize it, and then, making sure there aren't any rogue devices on there, and just having that full picture of what's going on in their environment. And I know Cisco also announced some new Wi-Fi 7 devices, I believe, this week, and for I think there's some new Wi-Fi 7 access points for stadium applications. How are you working with Cisco or other enterprises, other organizations, enterprises, service providers on Wi-Fi deployments in stadiums?
Well, great question. So we are vendor neutral. So of course we work with Cisco. We support all of their access points. As soon as they send us the patterns for their latest access points, they'll be in our software, so you can start designing for whatever environment you want. But of course, any other vendor as well, we have all of those in our software, so you can design for them, you can measure them. But what Cisco, I think, do really well in the new access point that they were talking about today, for especially which is specific for the stadiums, is because it's a device that has not only an access point in it, but the antennas that are inside of it are actually configurable to be directional. So if you was to look up at the moment, we've got that big grey one above our head at the moment. That's an external antenna. So you see the white access point, you see the big grey antenna, that's the external antenna connected to it, and it's very directional, so it focuses the energy down in a specific place. So in a massive environment like this, where it's very high density, you wouldn't really want to use what we would call like an omnidirectional antenna, because it would just go everywhere. So it means that people from all the way down at the other end of world of solutions could be potentially connecting to this access point over here. So the reason why they use the directionals is to kind of control that cell size, and then people, when you're just around the Ekahau booth, you're just connecting to this access point. But what Cisco, I think, do really nicely with their access points that they bring out at the moment is that you can buy ones that have the ability to have that directionality integrated to the device, which is quite important, especially with 6 gigahertz and the new rules, because sometimes you cannot have detachable external antennas with the device because of the certain rules around 6 gigahertz, and depending on where you are, that does vary a little bit, and having to check in with like a provider to see what you can and can't use. So the fact that they integrate it into the device is really nice. So the stadium antenna that they're talking about now is I think you have a few different options for how directional you'd like it to be. So in the stadiums, if you want to focus at a block of 100 seats, a block of 200 seats, or whatever, you can kind of configure that. So the way that we work with Cisco is that we support those in our tools and our software, so you can import the floor plans, you can model it out in 3D, you can place their access points, and you can visualize that coverage, you can plan for the capacity that you need for your unique environment, and make sure that you could design and then deploy the network in the way that's going to meet the requirements that you need.
Mm-hmm. That sounds really helpful, particularly in a stadium environment, just because there are so many overhangs and concrete barriers and seats and people, and there's just so much going on. Being able to, I guess it's because it's directing the beamforms in a specific way, sounds really advantageous.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because people attending these events, if they can't upload things to Instagram, it never happens. So
yeah, exactly.
They need that Wi-Fi access.
Seen a lot of people putting some stuff on LinkedIn and social media and stuff this week, posting about the event, sharing great insights, so that other people from all around the world can kind of see and hear what's going on. So yeah, it's really important to have great connectivity. That's what we all want these days. All of our mobile devices that we use now support wireless, so we want to make sure we can connect. I don't see anyone here with an Ethernet cable plugging in. So having good connectivity is really important for so many people, and that's why us as a brand, being Ookla, integrating with Speedtest, Ekahau and Downdetector, gives our users that visibility into how to have great connectivity, whether it's some testing Wi-Fi, understanding your internet throughput speeds and the quality of your network, or even just understanding if the application server you're trying to get to, because maybe you're trying to upload, but TikTok servers are down. So you could go and check out Downdetector and work out, hey, is it me having these issues, or is it potentially TikTok or LinkedIn or whatever service? So yeah, I'm really excited to see that kind of like cohesion between all of our brands coming together under the Ookla umbrella, like one big family now, being able to provide great access to tools and applications for our users.
Right. Yeah, I've definitely checked Downdetector when there's been some major, internet outages, and Speedtest is always. It's just kind of fun to run and see how things are going at my home internet.
I wonder how many people have run Speedtest since they've been here. I know it's one of the first things that I did when I got here and I connected. I was like, oh, I wonder how fast it is. I'm running a Speedtest straight away. And whenever we've been talking to people or demoing, we see we mentioned the Speedtest brand, and just everybody knows it. So they're like, oh yeah, I've already run like 10 Speedtests just today. We're like, wow. Wow. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. At least they're using it. That's really good. Well, Matt, thanks so much for speaking with me. I hope the rest of the event goes well for you, and look forward to having you on the podcast again.
It's a massive pleasure. Thank you so much, Kelsey. And I'm looking forward to singing along with however many 14,000, 15,000 people here to Mr. Brightside at the Killers performance tonight at the show.
Yeah, we do have an exciting night ahead, so looking forward to that. Thanks again.
Thank you so much.